Without further ado, I'd like to ask Financial Secretary Glenroy Forbes to make a few remarks.
It gives me great pleasure to extend to you a warm welcome and to say how grateful we are that you have accepted this invitation to take part in this important procurement workshop that has been prepared for local contractors and suppliers. As you are all aware, the government has obtained a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank in the amount of $65,292,000 to address portions of the recovery process. This loan includes funding for over $50 million in projects and consultancies. You will recall that it was on August 1st of this year that we offered a procurement fair in conjunction with CDB to advise local business opportunities related to this loan project. At the conclusion of that fair, and based on your overwhelming presence and feedback, we promise that we will facilitate a more in-depth training on procurement, especially as it relates to this loan. This workshop has been designed for you to improve your capacity to effectively respond to bidding opportunities available under the loan project. The training session will focus on general procurement principles, CDB tender documents, bid qualification requirements, joint venture arrangements, common errors observed in bidding, etc., and will be an excellent opportunity for contractors and suppliers to become familiar with the requirements of those procedures. This is an excellent opportunity for contractors and suppliers to become familiar with the requirements and procedures to begin working and lending your hand to the task of rehabilitation and reconstruction of a territory. At the Ministry of Finance, our goal is not only to build your capacity to be competitive locally, but that you should be competitive in the region and, I dare say, in the world. I am very pleased for the support that UNDP has been providing to the Ministry of Finance through the project unit. One of my stipulations as we were negotiating the contract with UNDP is that they provide every opportunity to build capacity both in the public service and the BVI community as a whole. I encourage you to take advantage of the knowledge and experience that they bring to this initiative. I want to once again publicly thank the Caribbean Development Bank, UNDP, and the government itself, central government of the British Virgin Islands, for coming together and putting on seminars like this one. I cannot overemphasize the importance of procurement, the procurement process. We, as players in this entire program, must get our procurement processes correct or right. There's too much riding on us getting it right for us to make too many mistakes. Procurement not only deals with the bidding or tendering process, it goes right down to actually getting you paid, those persons who may have won a bid, to the evaluation process. And if we do a good job of it, we get good reviews at the end of the game. So once again, do enjoy this particular session. ask as many questions as you can of the facilitators because they're very experienced persons. Persons like Dr. Glasgow have taken a lot of time out to make sure we get a good team for you, a team that is well equipped to help us through this process. It's a lot of money, increased debt on behalf of the government, debt that you as taxpayers have to repay. So let us make the best of it. And I want to thank you.
Financial Secretary, thank you for those warm and encouraging words. Indeed, procurement, it's very important. Procurement is a big thing, all right? Governments, we have found that governments spend between 15 to 20% of their budget on public procurements. And if we're dealing with big economies, billion-dollar economies, we would recognize that 15 to 20% is big money, all right? So we need to ensure that the policies and procedures are followed to the letter and spirit of the law, right? I would like to welcome, to give additional remarks, the Dr. Drexel Glasgow, our project coordinator within the Ministry of Finance.
Like the FS, I am very happy and pleased to see this turnout. And to what I feel is perhaps one of the most important things that we're about to do related to the loan. So the loan, of course, looks at construction and building back and helping the recovery. But as one of, I think Louis, I think you said it yesterday, the recovery is not just about constructing. We would have failed if we constructed several buildings and roads, etc., retaining walls, and you, the contractors, you, the suppliers, you, the persons of the BVI, did not benefit in some type of way with your knowledge to move forward. So we think that this initiative is very important, and as we move throughout this process, we'll be offering more, and we want to have your participation. So I just wanted to welcome you and to put some things in perspective, because it's important that you understand what's going on today and use what you learned today throughout the process and with you actually engaging in a procurement process. So we've had the experience of the previous loan of 2012 that we had similar workshops, but when we actually got to the implementation of the loan, we found that not that many contractors actually engaged in completing documents and engaging in the tender process. And that could be for a multiplicity of reasons. Perhaps you were scared, I don't know, intimidated. And one of the things that we looked at is the ability to actually get a document completed. And so we found that to be a problem, and that's one of the things we want to address in this workshop. Not contractors, sorry, consultants, in looking at sites. So, but I want to give you a perspective here to show you that this thing is no joke. In the next couple of, well, not couple, but in the near future, government will be implementing a new procurement act. If you have been following at all, what defines procurement in our legislation today is a couple pages of something, and then we have regulations to go along with it. We had what's called MAPS, so it's a method of assessing procurement systems. In 2014, as a result of, I think you would have known the whole fiasco about the cruise pair project, etc., etc. Coming out of that, we had a formal MAPS that was done for BVI. So I just want to give you perspective as to why, as the FS had mentioned, procurement is important. So the study identified 12 12 major weaknesses in our procurement system. Increase the size there. Okay, so many provisions in place that indicates a genuine effort. So we did some things well, but this is what they found. Absence of a comprehensive legal framework for procurement, meaning we did not have a standalone procurement legislation. Something that tells us how procurement is going to be handled. And when I say, everybody understand when I say procurement, I know John is going to get into this in a bit, but everybody understand what I mean when I say procurement? Or I'll tell you what it's not. Or more so, the things that we think procurement deals with, purchasing. We always think about purchasing, right? I think Public Works Department, they have a procurement unit, and that unit is responsible for purchasing, and it's usually petty items. But procurement, engaging you as contractors, actually sending out a tender process for you to respond to and winning a bid, that's part of a procurement process. So it's the process where you actually go out and secure, whether it's contractor, goods, services, all of that we call procurement, okay? So we did not have a standalone legislation. 2, we tend to waive the tender process a lot. Not that it's always a bad thing. What was key in the assessment is that there were no standard rules or guidelines that tells us when we can and when we should waive the tender process. Okay, so we didn't have that. There were no rules for participation in the procurement methods. So various methods, so whether it's in our thing, a petty contract system, or the major contract, or getting a consultant, there were no general rules that tells you what to do. There were no rules that tells about pre-qualification of contractors. So this is where efficiency comes in. We have to study you. I think as part of this, John is engaged, he would have mentioned, to do a market analysis. And I think he would have scoped out that, or maybe there was a survey that's going to be coming soon where the contractors, and suppliers can fill out. But as a part of this, we need information to determine how the procurement system will go forward and how we can best have your information in a database someplace that tells us about you. So whenever there's a need for a procurement process, we're not always starting from scratch. We had an issue with advertising and the time limits. Not that tender documents don't include these, but as an overarching regulation, there's nothing in our law or regulation that speaks to this. We had weaknesses with tender submissions, omissions, and responsiveness, and the evaluation. Evaluation meaning that we don't usually do a very good job in telling you what the evaluation criteria will be in the tender document, or even a scope of it. General legislation or regulations in procurement will tell you the methodology used to evaluate certain different methods. So if you're looking for services, or if you're looking for works or goods, that was a weakness. There's an absence of model documents. So a good procurement system has model tender documents that's available online that you can go and see it, check it out, feel it. If you go to the CDB's website, it has every procurement book, every procurement guideline. There's even a module, a training module that's available for free. So those are the things that every good procurement system has. We don't have it. At least we don't have it yet. As a part of, so you would have the act, and then you have what we call regulations. All regulations will be in the form of a handbook with which persons will have to see exactly how to prepare tenders and the rules of the game. We didn't have that. We had something in draft, but was never completed. We need to be able to disseminate information about procurement processes. So the end of a procurement process, the end of a tender, publishing the results so that you, even if you were not involved, the public would have access to that. And I think there has been a lot of that talk in the House recently about even cabinets, was it the minutes or the decisions being made public. And then, as a part of the whole development in procurement, our legislation had nothing to do, nothing that speaks to training and development of contractors, or even the persons who has the responsibility of procuring. And you would know these as the Central Tenders Board, the various ministries, and that was another big weakness. There's no centralized procurement entity, and we have these various entities, but they're not defined, and their roles and responsibilities are not well defined. And I mentioned publication of awards. So if you look at a MAPS report, it tells you these, and I wish I had the diagram to show you, but they kind of map it on a chart where you have yellow, greens, and red. Red meaning danger or horrible. So, I mean, we didn't do all bad, but those key areas, the things that define a proper procurement system, we didn't have them. So, we've seeked to address that, so all is not lost. We've actually had the draft legislation and handbook that has been passed through the cabinet, and it's being developed to go to the House. So we are a good ways ahead with that. So that will be coming. I wanted to mention that in my welcoming. So my apologies for taking up so much time. But again, as the FSA, take as much time, ask as much questions as you need to improve your knowledge in actually tendering, okay? But we do need to understand and get into the habit of preparing bids. Okay? Thanks.
Dr. Drexel, thank you. What I'd want to reassure you that you shouldn't, in the BVI, you shouldn't beat yourself up too much, right? There are other CARICOM member states that are in various stages of public procurement reform, public procurement development. Even the MAPS, the Modified Assessment of Procurement Systems, they're ongoing in various member states, right? For the benefit of our contractors and suppliers, what is particularly important about this MAPS and procurement development is that the CARICOM Secretariat, I understand that the BVI is an associate member. The CARICOM Secretariat, through its CSME unit, is working on public procurement reform for its member states. It's working for procurement to develop procurement legislation, standard bidding documents to be used across the member states. And of course, for your benefit, the setting up of a public procurement notice board. On this notice board, member states are required to publish their big procurement processes, which means that you could go as contracting BVI, contracting Barbados, or wherever you are, and look at the 10 opportunities that are available within the region. Right? CARICOM is working on this. This is with the assistance of the EU, the CDB, and the IDB. But don't beat yourself up with regards to reform. You're not far off from your neighbors, right? I'd also now like to ask the head of the project unit, Louis Francisco Thais, from the UNDP, to make some brief remarks as well.
My name is Luis Francisco Thais. I am head of the UNDP presence here in the British Virgin Islands. And I would like to, first of all, extend our appreciation to the Financial Secretary, Mr. Glenroy Forbes, and of course, Mr. Drexel Glasgow, for the support in making this workshop possible. I would really like to address the issue, that it's amazing to see the efforts being done by government in terms of trying to move forward this reconstruction and rehabilitation loan, And I think it's something that we need to recognize. I would also like to welcome your participation on behalf of the UNDP team to this first rehabilitation reconstruction loan sponsored training for contracts and suppliers, which we hope will not be the first or the last. We will be working. I understand that once we finalize this particular workshop, there will be a sheet for you to fill out, giving us your impressions, giving us your suggestions, and with that, we would like to work with you in order to organize perhaps a series of workshops that will help you be better prepared to meet the opportunities of this CDB funding, and of course, beyond the CDB funding, because there will be more opportunities, to address these type of issues. As you may know, the government of Virgin Islands and UNDP signed the collaboration agreement on February 2018, whereas UNDP will support government's leadership in the efficient and timely implementation of the CDB loan to rehabilitate and reconstruct social and economic infrastructure. UNDP's task in support of government leaderships includes procurement and institutional strengthening aspects that are very common to recovery settings throughout the world. It's very important. BVI, like other countries that have faced disasters, face big challenges in terms of reconstruction, rebuilding, rehabilitating. It is a challenge. So how do we address those challenges? How we navigate through those challenges? How we find opportunities through those challenges is very important, and I think a lot of work is being done towards that. Particularly, UNDP will be supporting with capacity building, supporting coordination, supporting project management, procurement, the application of social and environmental safeguards, which constructors, vendors, and suppliers will definitely need to be addressing along the line, and with monitoring and evaluation. This we actually do through the establishment of an implementation support team that sits with the Ministry of Finance. We work together with the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance leads, we there to support, as much as we can. We also provide technical support to the Disaster Recovery Coordination Committee through the presence of a technical expert, okay? And we also bring top-notch established UNDP capacities and presence in the region and beyond. UNDP works in 170 different countries and territories, And we've been supporting almost $2.1 billion in terms of reconstruction and rehabilitation throughout the world. So there's a lot of experience that we want to bring and put forward for you. In this context, I do want to make the point that the role of local contractors and suppliers is key in the implementation of recovery, as this allows to multiply the effects and the impacts of social and economic recovery. Much of the reconstruction is within or lies within locals, contractors, and suppliers. So it is very important, to work with you and see how can we help access these opportunities in this wider reconstruction and recovery process. As the FS mentioned, the training sessions will be focusing on CDB processes, procurement processes, and tendering processes. And we will address and explore as many issues as possible on the opportunities for contractors and suppliers to become familiar with the requirements on the procedures of CDB funds. We do understand that the requirements to access, CDB funds may seem challenging for all of you. However, we do encourage you to continue your efforts in considering this opportunity. Okay, for example, avenues such as partnerships, arrangements, joint ventures, etc., might be able to complement your qualifications with others. This will not only help you qualify for CDB funding, but perhaps look at other potential businesses in the future. So I really hope to wish you the best in this workshop. And as I said, this will be one of several other workshops we aspire to continue providing, because we believe, there's a lot of strength that we can capture here in this room in contributing to the wider recovery efforts in BVI. Thank you.
Now that we've dispensed with the formalities of this morning's session, perhaps if we introduce ourselves, could you say your name and which company you represent? And any expectations that you may have for today's training session?
I'm Lisanne from Creative Builders. Lashana Marshall from Dynamic Management, and my expectation is to learn about CDP, more about CDP.
Good morning. My name is Marcia from Quality Construction. Marcia Fredericks Nicholson from Quality Construction. And my expectation is to learn how to submit a successful tender or complete it.
Good morning. My name is Floyd Isaac for International Construction. My expectations are to see how I can bring up the tender better than I'm doing it right now.
Morning. My name is Dawn Crab Herbert. I'm here representing Atlan Heavy Equipment, also Herbert Consulting Services. My expectation from this is basically to understand about the funding from the CDB project and more opportunities for Atlan Heavy Equipment. Thank you.
Good morning, Lloyd Black, Greystone Business, and my expectation is to decode the CDB process.
Good morning. My name is Rudolph George from Rudolph George Construction.
My name is Mawson Watley from Watley's Enterprise.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Tadman for Roadside Equipment Services.
Good morning. My name is Jacob Adolphus, representing Trojan Designs and Development Limited. And my expectation is to get from this workshop, how do we go outside of the CDB partners in terms of bidding for equipment and supplies.
Morning. My name is Louis Fripp, representing Dark Construction.
Good morning. My name is Hugh Bryden, representing Roy Driver Construction Company.
My name is Sebastian Joseph. I represent Managed Tech Services. My expectation is to get additional understanding of the procurement process with the CDB.
Good morning. My name is Ricardo Leon. I'm from ICU, Intelligent Construction Unit. I hope at the end of the day I will be better equipped to qualify for the tendering via CDB.
Good morning. I'm Krista Gibbs from Ridgeview Construction. I'm interested in finding out who are the contractors that is being given the contracts for CDB. When are you going to be submitting it on your website? And also, when are these contracts going out per se?
Morning, my name is David Strecker. I'm from Ace Marine Contractors. I'm here to see and learn about the procedures of the CDB funding.
Morning, my name is Clive Jones, here to represent Connecting Enterprises.
Morning, my name is Jeffrey Forbes, Forbes Construction. I'm here to see and to understand the bidding and hope that at the same time the government will look out for everyone and not only they who get a contract.
Good morning, my name is Hercules Fraser. I represent HF Construction, and my expectation is to learn how to present a bid for a job properly.
Good morning, my name is Marlon Markey. I have the same expectations as everyone here in the room, so I just reiterate what everyone else has said. I am with QRCS Construction and Maintenance Services.
We want to go into the procurement training, right? But what I want to recognize is the government's commitment to capacity building, public procurement reform. It is very heartening because it's not so easy in other territories that I visited, right? But it's quite heartening to see the government of the Virgin Islands' commitment to capacity building.